Well, hey guys. So, what happened last week? Did they vote? Did they not vote? What's the scoop on that? Uh, Something else happened fairly big last week, dealing with the Clean Water Act and another suit that was filed. And we're going to talk because it's been a little while, I think, since we've kind of pulled everything together on what could end this rendering plant deal. So, guys, if that's something that you want to hear more about, then keep on watching. That was mostly for you guys that are watching this after the fact. So, good evening to everybody. Hello, Reba.
Hey, Reba.
Y'all jump on and hit that share button loud and clear from Christie King. Thank you. Y'all know the
Hey,
deal.
Christy.
I guess we've been doing this. I guess a
He doesn't even
year.
have to ask now.
Yeah, a
He'll just
year is
automatically
kind of
tell you.
long enough. But
Mm-hmm.
I still want to ask you to hit that share button. While everybody is still jumping on, I am going to throw out there. We talked about it last week, but we do have the Advanced Etowah app. So if you go to advancedetowah.com and hit the election 22 right now, probably what most people are going to care about is who's running. So there's a quick button to get to that. Got everybody side by side. I think there's one or two that I may not have in there yet. But I've had a few people message me and let me know and double check who I've got. So go check that out. I've also got a directory with information on who's doing what currently in our government. And then the Etowah issues. So check out those issues. If you've got thoughts and ideas, please drop them in there. And lastly, we've got a timeline. I have not had a chance to add in what happened last week, but we're slowly building that thing out. That's a good place to go check out with some embedded videos and links and stuff like that that hopefully will help you kind of understand. Um, and there's a ton missing, but we'll get there eventually. So, all right, how's everybody doing tonight?
How are you doing tonight?
Um, well, I'm 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 ready for Thanksgiving.
Me too.
Uh, I'm happy that we didn't have a vote. Frustrated, but it would have been nice to have them go ahead and vote, so at least know where they stand, and not keep us in suspense. But hey, at least they didn't make any more progress on destroying our community last week.
That is absolutely true. I think that what the messaging we've been receiving um, from the airport authority as a result of what happened at the meeting was that the some type of the restraining order prevented them from voting when it clearly when you read it it says that they can vote the court. So we never, the intention was, if count heads, vote, but you can't proceed to sign leases, sign agreements. That was what sort of the whole idea of what that request was. And so, and the court understood that and specifically stated in their order that didn't prevent them from doing a vote. They decided not to for whatever reason. They decided not to, but you know, wouldn't have. We're ready for them to count heads. Is there some type of? We need to know where they stand on it. We just don't need them to violate the law to be able to proceed on with executing documents, which we take the position they don't have the statutory authority to do, nor has the FAA signed off on. So that's sort of a nutshell version of what happened on Friday.
So we're still getting some folks jumping on. Again, hit that share button and maybe tag somebody. Seeing lots of comments in there. Reba, I haven't checked. You said you dropped some comment or some candidates in the opposition DM. All right, I will go in and check that out and see what we can get updated. Um, Hey, Philip says, thanks for the update. Always helpful. That is why we do this. Um, that's why we've been doing this for a whole year. The easiest way to fight this is with the truth. and with information. I'm thankful that people are willing to listen. So that is, and pay attention. So,
Well, it's so complex, and we're going to talk a little bit at the beginning about the complexity.
it's clear as mud.
I know, seriously.
It's clear as mud.
But the
We
complexity.
don't want a rendering plant here.
Well,
Go away.
It's simple too. That's my next step.
Oh,
the first
okay.
step is that there's a complexity, and we're going to talk about all the stuff that's happened last week and kind of what some of the, strategy is and where we are to the extent that we can really talk about that. So there's the complex part, which we're going to update everybody. But there's the really simple part, which is kind of the second part of what we want to talk about tonight, about this. This can be ended in such simple ways. And I know most of you guys know this. We've talked about this from day one, about who can end it and how they can end it and how simple and easy that is. But we felt it was a good time to circle up and to just refresh everybody, because we get so bogged down in the legal and the complexity and all of that you forget sometimes that it's actually pretty simple, and it's it's just the truth, and it's it's simple. So thought this would be a good time in order to kind of do both of those as we kind of go into the holiday, and everybody can hopefully breathe a little bit before we kind of launch back into the fight.
Yeah.
Which is,
Well, so I'm gonna throw out a few things from last week that are a summary, not to waste her time, but and then we'll jump in. I'll turn over and we're gonna listen to what you've got to say. But let's see where to start. So there has been discussion and rumor that the whole thing about us talking about them calling a vote, and that even filing this whole TRO and all that kind of stuff, that was all some big PR stunt that we had cooked up to get everybody riled up and get your attention. And that's just preposterous. So we had good information. And we'll get into that maybe a little bit more if it's even worth our time. But the other big thing from my perspective, and not being the lawyer in the room, it was fun to hear the attorney for the airport authority. Jim made a very well-read statement in response to some things that we pointed out last week about him representing Pilgrim's Pride previously. And what was the other thing that he cleared up for us?
John Weller.
Oh, John Weller
not
from the
being on
FAA.
agenda, so
yes,
he couldn't speak.
So if you go back and watch, I live streamed that airport authority meeting, and he said some stuff, and let me clarify what he said. He said, I represented Pilgrim's Pride previously, and that does not conflict with the current. It had nothing to do with the current representation, this current rendering plant issue. And he said that he did not allow John Weller from the FAA to speak to the airport authority. He went on, he explained that his legal opinion was that because he was not on the agenda, if he'd allowed him to speak on that agenda, that would have been a violation of the law. And then he went on to explain that he actually followed up with phone calls to Mr. Weller from the FAA, who is the biologist. So he confirmed exactly what I said. He did not allow Mr. Weller to talk to anyone at the airport authority to decide any of that. And in fact, did not get him, the airport authority still did not talk to Mr. Weller from the FAA. So I wasn't, that is just what happened. So the question that comes up in my non-legal mind is, well, if he wasn't on the agenda and it would have been illegal for him to speak, nothing was on the agenda last week. So was everything that happened illegal? I'm confused, but I really don't care. And I don't want to waste time talking more through that. That's his legal opinion. He's a lawyer. He's been hired by the airport authority, and he has the right to have his own opinions. I'm just asking some common sense questions there, Jim. And then I made it clear that I'm not accusing Jim of doing anything wrong by representing it. And as I've discussed with Christie and understood the legal aspects of that, there is no actual current conflict. If that case was still going on, that would be a different matter. But there's no conflict, so there's nothing theoretically wrong with him now being involved in our issue here. I was simply pointing out that's a really bad optic. So maybe it's worth talking to a PR firm to explain the point of what I'm trying to say. I'm not saying it is right or wrong. I'm just saying it looks really bad, and all of those kind of things that add up. That's why everybody's kind of up in arms and accusing people of doing illegal things. So if you don't understand that and you're involved in this game, then I don't know how to help you. But so those were two fun things at the airport authority meeting. And I'm going to be quiet. And do you want to start in some chronological order through last week?
I think that's probably best.
All
it's
right.
a good way to do it. It was a really busy week, and it's knowing that the information we had gotten that the airport authority was going to vote on Friday, and then had reached out to the airport authority attorney Jim and asked him a couple of times, are they going to vote? And not getting a response back from him. And then also on Congressman Adderholt's call, when he set up with the FAA and the airport authority, Adderholt's office told me that they had even asked, are you going to vote on Friday? And that they would not answer whether they would or not. And when you look at the prior meetings, when those questions were asked and we were told, no, they're not going to vote. And then with the credible information we had, there would going to be a vote. And then the fact that there wasn't a response. And then you got to remember, we filed the motion for restraining order on Monday around noon or so. The judge didn't enter his order until Wednesday around 5. So if there was, they were not going to vote, all they had to do was file something with the judge and go, no, we're not voting. There's no need for you to, do anything. Instead of the judge, taking the time to enter the order and spend that time, they could have filed something immediately and said, we're not going, but they didn't. And so, there was, all information and all of the responses we had received back from them, and we had tried to inquire, led us to believe that, yes, in fact, the credible information we had gotten was, in fact, true. So we had filed the motion on Monday with the judge, which I talked to you guys about on Monday night, that big thick motion that I had shown y'all. So we in that motion we didn't ask to stop them from the actual vote. We just asked that they couldn't. We asserted that it would be a violation of the statutory authority of the airport authority and the restrictions in the deed, and it would be a violation of the FAA rules that if they were allowed to proceed and actually sign anything. So the judge entered his order on Wednesday late, I think around 5 o'clock, in which he did that, and that's what his order said. It expressed those concerns, and said hey, you can vote, but you can't sign anything. So going into this meeting, the expectation was that they were free to vote, and for whatever reason they decided not to vote. We're still hearing what members of the airport authority are saying about why they did not vote, and so we're all that's, people just naturally talk about that in the community, and so we're trying to get our handle on what that was. So we had that happen on Monday. And then on Tuesday, Congressman Adderholt had lined up the Zoom meeting where we got on the phone with the FAA. There were 2 calls with the FAA and Adderholt. The first one was with our group, the Advanced Etowah group, and then the second call on Tuesday was just the city and the airport authority. Mayor Taylor from Rainbow City actually came in and sat on our call. And so, because he is, very concerned and he's very involved. So he came in and sat in on our call and got to hear what the FAA had to say. Congressman Adderholt and his staff have been so engaged with us. The people at the FAA that were on that call, Congressman Adderholt's office called me after the fact and said that this was some of the highest level people that they had seen come on there. So the impression we received was that the FAA was very concerned at the highest levels, and that Adderholt's office was extremely concerned as well. And then Adderholt did follow up, as you know, with two different statements, one on Tuesday, which was a short statement, and then he did a long op-ed that was in the Gadsden Times, and he posted online on Thursday. So Adderholt is just really engaged, really concerned. He's made that really, really clear. Not only has he said that, but he's taken action to set these meetings up. So that happened on Tuesday, and it's our understanding that the same kind of communication that the FAA told us that they told the airport authority too, which is like, look, you can vote, but you can't do anything to sign anything or move forward until the FAA approves it prior. And so that's what the message was. That's our understanding that they gave us and that they gave them as well too. So that was on Tuesday. Wednesday, like I said, the judge entered his order late in that day. So we knew, okay, so even if, we know that they're going to meet, so at least, when that vote happens, which ultimately didn't, that at least they couldn't proceed further on from that point in time. And then Thursday, the Clean Water Act case hit. So, you guys know that ever since this rendering plant matter has started, it's really caused a lot of focus and attention to the water and sewer system in general that we have here, because the idea of a rendering plant connecting 600,000 gallons a day was already bad enough, but it kind of raised all these questions that have been percolating for years and years about, wait a minute, our sewer system is broken now, much less when you hook all of that in. And then this group, as you know, started reporting all of these, SSOs, and then Coosa River keepers came up, and Carolyn Parker, they've both been very involved with the problems. And they go, yeah, we know. We've been preaching this for a while, that there's sewer problems we already have, and we need to address those. And so effort sort of came standalone of over and above what this rendering plant could add is even more impact, that we have problems right now. And so that awareness being brought some other attorneys to the table who are kind of experts in the clean water case, and said, hey, this is it is a violation. Your sewer system is not in compliance. And so Coosa River Keepers and this group, the SSOs that you guys videoed and photographed, and I mean, without that, I don't think that the case could have been built the way that it is, because this group came together in order to do that. There was meetings that Coosa River Keepers and Advanced Etowah had in the community where most of those overflows are happening. So it's really just a grassroots effort in order to fix this. So this Clean Water Act case hit on Thursday. And go ahead.
I'm going to interrupt
Sure.
and throw an angry statement out there. As we talk about the infrastructure and what this
Mm-hmm.
Clean Water Act case is all about, and as we've talked all along, so we've heard it said that basically, like the $24 million from the stimulus money, from the COVID money that was provided, basically all of that could be spent on infrastructure updates. A big piece of that is all the runoff, the drainage, the sewer system, all of that kind of stuff. So I'm just going to ask, why are we talking about spending $2 million on building new office space at the venue? If you know that you can spend all this money, and we have problem, and we have people that are getting, flooding in their homes, and we've got these massive issues. We're having all these SSOs. We're pouring our wastewater into our resources. I'm just not seeing the connect, the ROI, the return on investment of investing $2 million in to build more office space in the venue. Again, I'm just interrupting with a little angry statement there. So,
well, but it's the history of not prioritizing. That's what the point is. That's why we're in the Clean Water Act. Why the violations of the act exist is because the priorities of fixing these problems haven't been there, which is this systemic problem of the vision that our leaders have for our county and our city don't match what the citizens' vision is. Because
right.
I can tell you, as soon as this group in Advanced Etowah became aware of, hey, we didn't know, maybe we should have known that this was going on, and now we became aware, like, wow, this needs to be fixed. I mean,
and guys,
period.
this for those, I didn't know anything about the issues that they've got in East Gadsden, but once you get educated, you see some pictures and you see some video. Like, nobody in this community sitting there going, I'd rather have my roads fixed because they're a little bit bumpy, or man, no, we'd do better with the venue or any other thing. It's so bad that any person would look at that and go, that needs to be the priority of spending money. We cannot have a community that lives in those kind of conditions.
We're not our neighbor. We don't treat our neighbors that way. If once you look at the photographs of what they're dealing with, anybody would say, no, we've got to fix this problem. And there's not to say that efforts might not have been made, and that this is some intentional way. It's just a lack of prioritization in a way that we just need to see or us do differently.
And I will, before, as we talk about spending money and all that kind of stuff, I get it that it's complicated. Right. I'm obviously I'm boiling it down to one or the other. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not the city fiscal expert. I don't know if we actually have a fiscal expert in the city. I'm having a really tough time tonight. So yeah, I get it. It's more complicated than that, but I think that's still a valid point and valid discussion.
It's complicated, but it's simple, in a lot of ways. It's complicated in that finding what the solution is not easy, just like with this whole rendering plant. The solution is not easy, but when you see what's going on, it's pretty simple that people need some relief on this. And again, this is issues that, Carolyn, others in the community, Coosa Riverkeepers have been talking.
We're late to the game.
We're late to the game.
Yeah.
They've been screaming this for a long, long time. So I'm just glad that the awareness has been brought to the level that we've got some expertise in there that can come in and say, yeah, we can help. And so the Clean Water Act case was filed on Thursday, and it alleges that the existing Gadsden City water treatment and sewer system is in violation of the Clean Water Act because of these SSOs, and that those have got to be fixed. Period. And then it also impacts the rendering case in that if you're in violation of the Clean Water Act now, you can't hook 600,000 gallons a day of rendering plant discharge to a system. Just imagine the exacerbation of the problem of what you would be doing to the community that is dealing with this, and we just need to reprioritize, like we do so many other things. And so it just needs to be part of the conversation that hasn't been. So that's an important. So it was important to understand as you look at the week and what's happened for the week, that it's not. And again, we know this, we're preaching to the choir, but that it's not. It's a local matter. But we've got the FAA, we've got Congressman Adderholt, we've got the Clean Water Act. That this rendering plant is such a massive bad idea that there is literally no component to it that fits here. Even when you take the airport out of the equation, and that's a gigantic part of the equation.
we got to get the jobs. We got to get the jobs to replace those Goodyear jobs.
It's just a bad idea. Y'all know that. It's just there's no facet that is not just it's a massively bad idea from every angle that you see all of this. So it was a strong week, but it's just one.
So I stopped you at Thursday. Do you want to roll into Friday?
Friday, we went to the airport. You talked about what happened at the beginning.
I talked about the stuff that's near and dear to my heart.
And then they ended up they did not vote. Supposedly, some type of, the judge's order said they couldn't vote when it clearly said they could. None of that makes sense. But again, y'all, it never does with some of these guys. So that was sort of what we heard coming out of it.
So they did. They did some business with an FAA grant.
They did,
which would further hold them to comply. For it's actually pretty long, all these FAA grants. I mean, you're talking like 20 years. 20 years.
Mm-hmm. There's 20 years of grant assurances that sort of start over every time these grants happen.
So I'll give it as a, when I pay the federal taxes, that's probably a pretty good policy for the FAA to spend our federal dollars. Hey, if we're going to give it to the local community, we need to at least get 20 years out of this money and investment. So that honestly kind of shocks me. I would have been like, maybe 2-3 years is what they'd require, but no, 20. So
then they hired their same auditor to do this year's audit as well too. So that's the other action item that they did. And then they adjourned into an executive session again. A lot of literally every meeting has been an executive session almost entirely.
I don't know.
Meetings are going on behind closed doors. I mean,
how are they getting any business done?
Well, that's a great question. The fact that there's, so much happening behind closed doors, yet there's no deliberation, there's no voting, and I think that's frustrating. Everybody, there's a time and place in order for those executive sessions to happen. Certainly, I've served on boards, I've represented entities, and I understand that there's a time and place for that. But both legally and just from the community perception that these items are a public concern, of grave public concern, and that these discussions, to the maximum extent possible, need to be in the public eye, because all that does when you do that is it breeds the suspicion, and I would submit that it is appropriate suspicion because of the lack of information and that we had, and how this was all done, so much behind closed doors before the public knew about it. So there's already that deep concern, and that's valid. And so when you couple that with this behind closed doors continuously, it's not unreasonable for the public to question that. And the idea that it is unreasonable, that there should be some, that we're wrong in questioning that, I think is not based in reality. And I think it's time to come out into the light, to err on the side of coming out into the light.
And along that lines, I would like to make a special plug for Gadsden PD. I think we ended up with 7 cars.
They were so I felt like they were protecting us from the airport authority, not the other way around. They were so courteous.
I'm gonna make the donut joke. I definitely felt like we should have shown up with some donuts or the Airport Authority live stream should have been sponsored by Cothran's or somebody. But no, that was pretty. That yeah. Through this entire process, I'm sure somebody told them that there was somebody had made threats against people, and that's what we've heard consistently, and that's why we keep seeing 10, 12 cars showing up. I think it was six or seven by the end of it, and we had
Six or seven
18
cars.
allowed in
I
the
think it
room.
was 6 or 7 cars, but it was about 8 or 10
Yeah,
officers
yeah,
at one point. I think, but again, they were all
yeah.
just
Super.
as professional and as courteous as they could be. And thank you guys. That you were very nice. So
Yeah, it's just. I mean, that's the world you're living in, and that maybe that's why you're having all these closed door discussions. I mean, like I really don't know. I really don't know how to read the room for you, how to help you understand. We're not calling for. I don't know. Death threat. We've had all these threats and all this kind of stuff talked about, and I've talked about how remarkable I actually in 2021 America on social media, how actually tame our community has been. If you don't see that and appreciate that, then you have, you probably sit around and talk about how much you hate the internet and never spend any time on the internet or pay any attention to what people are talking about out there. What we've gone through, I would chalk up to, or I would say has been a very, very tame group. I've warned that things are going to escalate as you continue to march down this road. I certainly am not encouraging anything. I'm doing the opposite of that. I'm discouraging anyone from doing anything inappropriate and certainly threats. I mean, we have been against all of that from the very beginning, but I am telling all of you people, all of you guys that are continuing to push this rendering plant further and further down the road and jerk our community around. Guys, I mean, you're not playing politics here. You're playing with people's lives. You're playing with people's livelihoods. You're playing with people's family homes. Um, this is some real stuff. And what happened last week. We're now at a point where it seems like the airport authority is ready to vote. And do something and move things down. Further down the road. Fortunately, we were able to stop it and hold it off a little bit longer and keep kicking the can. And ultimately we will prevail. But you're pushing people. And I personally, like as a Rainbow City resident, and I was glad to have Mayor Taylor there because that's telling me, and I know that he's talking with, the other mayors, especially in South Side. It's time to escalate as a community. I personally, I think it's time for, all of the organizations that are out there, all of municipalities, you need to start having those conversations. And I know some already have, but maybe you need to start considering what are the legal actions, like start getting smart on the legal actions that can be taken as this thing marches further and further down the road. I know there's been a ton of phenomenal legal work done. And the fact that we're here a year later, and that they haven't started construction and that we're, they're not here in our community, speaks volumes. But I'm just telling all of you, this was an escalation. Fortunately, it wasn't as bad as we thought it might end up being. Although it'd be nice to have a vote, right? So if you're going to vote not to sell the land, we'd love to know that, so we can drop the case. We can all this stuff goes away, and we can get to fixing our community. But this is an escalation, and I'm just having a frank conversation. Because most of you guys on that airport authority or in the city government probably really wouldn't talk to me, and you certainly wouldn't come sit next to me and talk to me. Although I'd love to, I'd love to understand your rationale. But people are going to get mad, and it's I don't want to see that happen. I think we're a better community than that, but the reality is that there's only so far you can push people. So that's what I'm scared of, honestly.
Well,
But
and then talking about the you know the concern that these handful of people, and we're going to talk about that in a minute, have the power to either say yes or no. And the idea that they're the victim and that they're powerless, and that they're not responsible or accountable for the state and the condition of this county with this going on for a year, and the level of stress and disruption and concern and fear this community has, that we're all struggling to manage, and to keep from a legal point of view, from going off the rails, and from just talking to you to make sure you know what's going on, and so the idea that they don't have control and accountability to end this like that, because they do. And so the idea that they're somehow being maligned or accused of things, when really you really do have the power in order to solve this. And so it's not unreasonable that people are upset, because they know that y'all are smart. No matter how much they say they can't do this, and that we know they can. That's why we elected them. That's why they've been put in that position. They're the leaders. So don't tell us that you can't, because we know that you can. And so that's a level of frustration that everybody has. And I think, as Michael's saying, that's only going to get worse as those opposing get more and more vocal. We have the group, we have the FAA, we have Adderholt, and so people are, so why aren't you stopping this?
And I guess what's been interesting, I've been a lot more on the media side. I do marketing and all that kind of stuff, and I've definitely felt like we've got the public pressure. We've done a very good job as a community of expressing our concerns, a very good job, and I'm extremely proud of that. And it's funny to see as now basically we're marching into I don't have any idea what to say to these people anymore. I have no idea what can possibly be said to somebody that seems to be living in their own little world. So now it's all a legal fight. And so I think that helps you be a lot calmer, because you understand
comfort zone.
That's you're seeing a lot of legal strategy that a lot of us, I don't know. I've never tried to stop a city government from doing something like this.
And that's true. But the unfortunate part of that, and I can look at it, because talking to you about it and others about it, is that, this isn't a game. The legal strategy can get into this moving the pieces on the chessboard into this, into that. And sure, I can talk about that all day long. But this is our lives. This is your lives. This is your livelihood. Michael's home is right down the road. And so I can talk about legal strategy and the chess pieces. And he's like, my house value is going to drop about 20 to 30% like that as soon as the airport authority votes. Those are the kind of things that it's not a legal strategy chess game. This is people's lives, and that's why everybody is rightfully upset and concerned. So we don't need to devolve into this legal gamesmanship. These are people. If I could tell you some of the stories you've probably heard them too. These stories from people in their lives, how they're going to be impacted. And so that's what we've got to keep the eye on the ball. Is I'm going to do my thing and do the legal, but we can't forget that these are people's lives. These are our neighbors. These are our friends. These are people we go to church and school with.
And here's a good comment along those lines. I think it sums it up nicely. The parcels nearby and adjacent to the airport are not monopoly board properties. They are family homes and farms. More importantly, the life-sustaining water that quenches our thirst, irrigates our farms, and provides recreation, connects us all physically and culturally.
Beautiful. Exactly.
I wish I knew who put that on there, Facebook user. But that I think sums it up nicely, and that is why the further and further down we march, and I said it, if you want to win on technicalities in the court of law, you're going to get called. You're going to get called on it.
What do you win?
Yeah,
if you win this battle, what do you win?
There is no win. You're not going to prove us wrong. So, anywho's all right. Let me. I'm sorry.
Well, I think that's a great way to set, because we've talked about the complexity, right? The legal strategy and what's happened this week, and I can get a flow chart for y'all on all the different strategies that we've done this week, that we've got planned, and all of that. But it's a great segue, because it's really not about that. It's about the simple. It's about people's lives, and about what leaders can stop this, and how simple they can do that in a single vote. So are you ready to talk about that, Michael, or is there more I haven't talked about
I was thinking, let's jump through some of these questions, and we'll clean up some of these questions real quick. Okay, I'm just going to go in order, guys, in no particular order. Do you think we'll ever get the records from the IDA and the airport management group?
So our motion to unseal is scheduled for a hearing on December 1st, along with some other motions that we have pending. Some of those records are IDA records. Most of them are City and Pilgrim's Pride. You'll remember the IDA claims it's a private entity, not subject to the Open Records Act, and so we've got that hurdle. So we really can't get the records from the IDA, but we have asked for the records from the management group, which is Neil Schaefer. That's Ken Gilbert, who is the consultant for that. So we have the whole open records case, which probably we need to do a live on at some point, because that's a whole different kettle of fish with the open records, where we've added the airport authority, the Northeast Alabama Regional Aviation, the cities in that. There's a whole set of records that we have not gotten. So we've gotten some, but we are very far away from being complete or even started on the open records case, and the lack of transparency, because y'all know that's an issue that's near and dear to my heart.
Yeah. Okay. Hopefully that answers that. Heather asked, are the executive sessions listed on the GAA's agenda given to the public? Is there a limit to executive sessions they can use?
There's not a limit. And so the executive sessions were listed on prior agendas, but there wasn't listed on last week's agenda. So it can be on the agenda. It doesn't have to be. This whole idea that the agenda can't be amended, I don't buy any of that. If you have an agenda, but you can amend the agenda. Sometimes the airport authority doesn't even have an agenda, and they still can conduct meetings. So that's a legality about this agenda, has some set of rules that you can't,
Well, and I when they're gonna, I'm sure, come out and talk about how we were so silly because they were never going to vote and blah, 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 blah. Well, then how come every previous meeting, when asked, the answer was, no, we're not going to vote.
And here's an agenda.
But in this one, nothing. Birds chirping and crickets and all those kind of, nothing. So I don't know why you would think we wouldn't think something different. But again,
the problem is not the vote. It is proceeding with a transaction when you're not authorized in order to act on that vote.
And the other thing that, like, why it's got to be all secretive on how they're going to, like, they can all talk publicly about their thoughts on this, right?
And
I
that's
mean,
a
there's
whole
no,
other topic that just, that's a topic. That's why I brought this up, because he knows it's a whole other topic. The idea that, I had, like, you need to not only vote, you need to have a public discussion. You need to schedule a public meeting for all of the deliberations. And there's no reason. People know what public officials are going to vote before they vote all the time. We hear from the idea that there's some gag order on people that they can't even go, yeah, I think it's a bad idea. They have to stay silent and can't tell us anything. Since why not? Why can't
the,
you express your concerns about
the only
this?
actual limitation is that they can't get together as a quorum
That's right,
and discuss it.
But they
But
can
they could sit down at Jack's and talk to us as individuals all day long, right?
and that's just it. And so the idea that we're somehow unreasonable, that you're withholding any discussion or deliberations for a year on your position, and that when we have credible information that there's going to be a vote and you're going to act in an inappropriate, that we're somehow wrong to react to that when it's just, y'all know, I don't have to tell you, you
All
know
right.
how unreasonable that is.
Yes. Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Heather New.
Heather.
I do not mean to ask you to speculate, but why does Attorney Ken Robertson vote against entering into executive session?
Because he's smart.
Is that speculation? If you don't know exactly why would a legal expert vote against it? What basis would cause someone with his background to vote against going into executive session?
So Ken Roberts is an attorney, and he's an aviator. He's both. So he's got a great deal of experience.
Newest member to the board.
Newest member of the airport. He was just appointed in July, maybe. And so he's the newest member. And so he knows what the executive session and the open meetings law says. And so one can presume that if, as an attorney, if he knows what that law says and he votes no, that he, would have some concerns about whether it is appropriate or not under the law in order to go into an executive session. But I'm speculating. You're right, Heather. I'm an attorney. He's an attorney. I'm putting myself in his shoes and guessing that's what his concern is.
I'm gonna say I'm actually comforted that we've got a guy like him who is an attorney and an aviator.
Mm-hmm.
Although we already had one other attorney on the board who is also the attorney for the board that's pushing this whole project and doesn't seem to think there's any conflict of interest there. So I should not trust attorneys.
You shouldn't.
That's never been said before. But I would say I'm going to give hope that Ken would be a good one to understand what could and couldn't be talked about in that executive session. So I am so sorry. I got a frog in my throat. But I'm comforted that there's another attorney in there that can,
attorneys can be good guys too, Michael. See, and we're not, we can be good guys too.
All right, moving on. Reba, what did you ask? Did we clarify if Pilgrim's Pride rep was at the GAA meeting? No,
we did not. At all intents and purposes, that Pilgrim's Pride was there. That was a Pilgrim's Pride rep, but I don't have any specifics on what his job is at Pilgrim's Pride. But I honestly haven't had a chance to look into it. Maybe Reba, you can help me out. You're really good at stuff like that.
All right, Kathy said my thoughts are if they were going to vote against Pilgrims, the vote would have happened. So them not voting pretty much tells us what they are going to end up doing. I mean, I can't disagree.
That's logical.
I think we've assumed how they were going to vote. I mean, they were already. We know especially that Harry McClendon, when he was on the board and working with the city attorney Lee Roberts and Frankie Davis and the mayor, they were working long before any of us even knew any of this was going on to try and they got $1 million in the budget to build a road out at the airport for the project. So why we would think that they have changed in their desires? I mean, we have David Hooks, who is under oath in deposition, said that he believes this is the best thing and that the FAA will sort it out. You know, that's the I'm
Well, and you got to remember from June until November when this break, that the Harry the chairman and Ken Gilbert the consultant were working aggressively with the FAA, the IDA, and the city to locate pilgrims here, and they still have the same consultant, Ken Gilbert, who is writing part of the evaluation team on whether now to accept their offer or not. So again, to think that it is unreasonable that when they had already decided, maybe they don't have it in writing, but they had already made a decision. I have an email where Ken says to the FAA that Pilgrims has committed to that site. That's his word, committed. And so the idea that now that then this same consultant is helping them to, decide who to pick. And so the idea that that wasn't what the vote was going to be, it's not unreasonable for us to believe that. And when you look at the silence and the activities in order to obstruct or to change their course in any way. So I if that was what their decision was this time last year, what makes us think that they've changed their mind at this point? I wish I was wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. But it doesn't appear that way.
And last one, is he referencing the Alabama Open Meetings Act when he was talking about agendas? I think you're referring to Jim's comments.
Right. He was
about John Weller.
That was Robert's Rules of Order. And to the extent, and the airport authority has adopted Robert's Rules of Order in order to govern its meetings, and the Robert's Rules of Order deals with the agenda. And again, I could get into you technically have to adopt the agenda. They didn't even do that. But you can change the agenda before you adopt it. Again, an agenda is just that. It's an agenda. So
well. Maybe you'll get to make those legal arguments in court one day.
Well, I do hope so, but I would rather these parties who can stop this next week do that instead. As much as I love y'all, and as much as I'm this fight is important, I'd much rather these leaders stop.
God, what a Christmas present that
Wouldn't that be amazing? And then we can all focus on other things, and people don't have to go into the holidays, worried about this and the effect it's going to have on their lives.
All right. I'm seeing some other questions in there, but with that, we need to segue into a good chunk that I think we haven't talked about in a while. But guys, I know we've got a lot of smart, educated folks that have been paying a lot of attention through a lot of this. Half of you are armchair lawyers at this point, like I am. So answer, chat it up in the comments and answer some of those questions on. Seeing some questions about how many numbers for quorums and some of that kind of stuff. If you can answer, jump in there. We're going to move on.
Lance Corey can answer most of those questions. If Lance is on.
Yeah.
Dive in, Lance Corey. You and I have talked extensively about this.
We've got, So, and I appreciate you guys, asking the question. Keep asking them. There's a lot of us that have been involved from the beginning, and there's a lot of folks that are just now jumping in. I'm seeing some new folks jumping in the group and asking to join the opposition group, which is awesome. We want to try and get as much information as we can. So ask us questions. Don't hesitate. Don't feel like you're asking any stupid questions or anything like that. So we'll try to get you as informed. But I do want to move on to, okay, so we've talked about some complex stuff. We've talked about some complex legal maneuvering. Unfortunately, it appears there's a lot of that left. what could happen so that we could avoid? What are the ways that we could avoid all this legal maneuvering?
Airport authority could call a specially called meeting, vote to not sell the land at all. And they could do that on post the notice and 5 days later meet, and we all have a great holiday. The judge's order does not prevent them from voting in order to do that. It specifically doesn't. They could, in any attempt for them to say that the judge is preventing them from doing that, I would submit is wrong. They could.
I mean, so in theory, their attorney could go ask for clarification from the judge.
Absolutely.
I mean, Judge Jay's been
That's
responsive in this, right?
That's right. He's been great. So all they'd have to do is, if that was a concern, clear that up, get a meeting, vote no, not going to sell it at all. To the extent there's an argument of members of the airport authority, oh, well, I'm on the IDA board or IDA attorney, or I'm at Alabama Power and I have a conflict. Well, even, first of all, if that's the case, why are you still on the board? You've been there a year and you claim that you can't vote. That's another story for another day. Just vote not to sell it to anybody. Just, we're not going to do anything. There's no conflict in that. Bring it up, vote to not sell it, move on. It's not hard. And the idea you can't do that is just, we don't really buy that. We didn't from the beginning. We still don't. You can give me legal answers all day long, but you've got the authority, you've got the power in order to do that. We've been saying that from day one. City of Gadsden, you could. There's multiple ordinances. You've already passed this non-binding resolution that you don't want it at the airport. Thanks. That's great.
They sort of passed it with and then tried to flip the votes.
Yeah. And so the fact that Pilgrims is still here, as we've talked, in Georgia, they went away when the powers that be told them, you're not going to get abatements, rezoning. We're not going to prove anything that you need. They left. And so if that was the message, that was not the message that was sent to them by this non-binding resolution that they did a couple months ago. Send a message that we're not going to approve any of that. We're going to vote it down. Pilgrims, will leave, or that's what they've done in other places when they know that they're not welcome. And so the city, the mayor's office, Frankie in the mayor's office, but y'all could say, we're not bringing this in front of the council. We're not negotiating with you anymore. The IDA, the board of the IDA could meet and say, Mr. Hooks, we're directing you not to pursue this Pilgrim's Pride matter. And in fact, we're directing you to reverse course and to not cooperate any further with them on this. And so so the idea that there's no responsibility anymore on that, it is just those boards could meet and they could take action. And I get that they historically have not been told they have the authority to do any of that. They think they're just this sort of figurehead board, or so I'm told, that they don't do that, right? David Hooks just comes and tells them what the projects are. We can't tell you their names or who it is because it's all confidential. But you hire and fire the executive director. That's what Mr. Hooks testified under oath. He is hired and fired by the board. So the board, if you don't think you have the power, you do. Mr. Hooks says that you do. So you could take action and direct him to withdraw any cooperation, and in fact write a letter to Pilgrim that the IDA no longer authorizes this in any way. Those are the types of actions. And there's one other. If you remember, the Gadsden Waterworks and Sewer Board temporarily withdrew their agreement or their authorization for Pilgrims to discharge into their sewer. And so they didn't say no. They said they granted they wrote a letter they would take their discharge. Then they wrote a letter that they temporarily were suspending and pulling that agreement back. Instead, you could write a letter that says, we will not take it. We will not take that. And if you don't take their discharge, they can't come. We've heard arguments from the water board. They can't do that. They would get sued because they have to take everybody's discharge. Don't tell me there's not businesses that have tried to come here that you said, we're not going to take that. You don't have to take everybody's discharge.
I think most citizens would happily pay for that lawsuit.
Right, yeah.
Just throwing that out there. They'd rather pay for that lawsuit than the one they're paying for now.
Exactly. But if that's the idea that the Waterworks and Sewer Board can't in good faith make a decision that we've got a Clean Water Act lawsuit pending right now, and we just need to withdraw any indication we would approve this discharge. We're being sued under the Clean Water Act case. Obviously, we can't take it. What better legal cover is that? They can't come if they don't connect. So that could end it. So those are some simple, entities that any one of them, much less multiple ones, could step in and take ownership of this. That's really what this group is asking for. This group doesn't want to take over the city. We don't want to control things. We want you to. We're asking our leaders to do that for us because we voted or you're in leadership positions in order to do that. And that's what the people are asking you to do. And we're continuing to ask for that. It's not that complicated. So that's my short and sweet summary as we look at the big picture, all the chess pieces in the chess game, and then we talk about what's real human lives and how these leaders can impact them.
Okay, so individual board members of the IDA could potentially direct David Hooks to disinvite Pilgrim's Pride. I like
Yes.
that verbiage.
They could say, I want you to write a letter and say you are not a good fit. We are not going to engage with you anymore. Mr. Hooks was the point man who brought the city and the water board and the airport authority and all the consultants in order to move this ship along. The emails show that. I'm not just saying that.
Yeah.
The emails show that. And so he's the point person. He could be the point person that says, you know what, it's not a good fit, and I'm going to officially write a letter that says that it's not a good fit, and we're just not going to proceed. That would go a long way in order to encourage pilgrims that you're not going to be successful locating here, so you need to find somewhere else.
So speaking of the IDA board, I was talking earlier about the escalation that we're in, the escalation of different communities that may want to figure out what their legal actions can be. Shoot, the Neely Henry Lake Association, all of you lake waterfront property owners, you got a very vested interest, and you've got people marching down the path. I think honestly, we haven't talked a whole lot about the IDA board, and a lot of that was a feeling that surely, like this is all gonna, the people will make some good decisions here. At this point, I personally would ask the question: if I'm on that IDA board, what's the point? We already know that you're not established in an appropriate way. So I would hope that if you're on the IDA board that you're taking actions to try and figure out how you can correct that. This whole concept that industrial development and industrial recruitment should be handled by a private company that doesn't really have to answer to anyone is absurd. That's so that no matter what happens, that needs to get fixed and should be addressed. And I would hope that the board members, but now you're marching down the road of trying to spend $2 million on the venue for office spaces for yourself. I'm sitting here wondering if I'm on the IDA board, what exactly, what good are we doing here? I know we see the Facebook posts and we see the sponsored ads that you're running to talk about all the great expansions and the money and all that kind of stuff. We're playing games And I just don't understand. If you're on that IDA board, I'd publicly get off of it personally, and I would, unless you think you can from within fix it, and restructure the IDA, and get things going in the right direction, then why are you wasting your time on that IDA? Let people know that it doesn't seem like they're really actually trying to act in the best interests of the community. Now, that's just my opinion. Obviously we've got lots of opinions. That's the beauty of voters. But it's starting to get when I talk about escalations, that's where we're at. The tourism board, for example, great. They came out with a resolution against this. I've had Hugh Stump on. We've talked about the importance of tourism and the impact. They all get it, and they have been very supportive through this entire thing, and that is awesome. But I hope the tourism board has taken some time to consider, okay, well, what's the next legal ramification of some of that? What more could we do as the tourism board to try and escalate beyond just coming out with a resolution? I don't know the answers, and I don't want to put you in the position to answer all that.
I'm one of the attorneys for them,
right?
so I'm taking no
and I'm just,
position
yep.
as it relates to
and,
that.
And I am. This is Michael
yeah.
talking.
Mm-hmm.
This is Michael talking. So. I'm just using them as an example. I'm not trying to point a finger at the tourism board. I don't, the Kiwanis Club. I don't know. Church of the Highlands. Any of these other organizations that are out there, like this is time. I think to have some real conversations about what the what ifs. Because if you wait, too much longer. It could end up being too late. I certainly hope it's not. I know she's calm because she's got a lot of ideas. And there's still tons of strategy to be fought. But I mean, back to the IDA board. Why are you continuing to do this? I know there's, I think there's some good folks on that IDA board. I'm really kind of shocked that we're still marching down this path. You can sit on the IDA board and say, I can't do anything. Well, you could, if you can't do anything, back to if you're sitting on the airport authority and you're saying, well, I can't vote, I got to abstain. Well, then why are you there? Get off, go somewhere else. Like, you're wasting your time. You're wasting our time. Maybe now it's time to publicly put pressure to say, I'm publicly saying I don't think the IDA is actually doing anything to help our community. They seem to be acting against our best interest. Again, that's my opinion. You can, that's the great thing about a democracy. We can have those debates, and we can have all sorts of arguments about how great and wonderful the IDA is and all the incredible things that they've brought in. We need to get to talking about master plans. We need to get to talking about how, what's the IDA doing to work with the county? How is all this impacting? Hey, speaking of the county council,
commission
or county commission, I'm sorry,
mm-hmm.
county commission. What's going on with the mega site, and how does this impact our ability to attract, somebody into the mega site besides rendering plants? Is there action that at the county level that needs to be taken? Etowah, you right next door. What's the impact over there? I like I said, I'm not trying to freak everybody out. I don't want to scare everybody too much, but at the same time, it's time to up the level of what's the word? Seriousness. It's been a year. It's been an entire year. The folks in Georgia got this done in 3 months?
I don't even think it was 3 months. I think it was about 2 months that they got 2.5 months.
So
they got this all done.
Anywho's, the simple ways to stop this, and this whole argument that, well, we've got to wait till the court case that this lawsuit is done to do anything. The lawsuit is there because you are doing things,
Right.
because you
It
continue
was
to do things.
only filed because of the imminent nature of this project that had a construction date of January 2021. Well, there was February or January. There was two different dates. It was filed for that. So the idea that lawsuits prevent you from making it go away, I don't know if you believe that. I don't know who's telling you that, but I don't know if you're concerned Pilgrims is going to sue you if you. But
again,
yeah.
a fight that I'm pretty sure most of the citizens would be happy to help. If we got to fight Pilgrims, I'm all in. I'm there. We'll do everything that we can to help fight that fight. And I think we'd have a community that would turn out in the same support to fight that fight against Pilgrims. I won't get into legal speculation of
we can get bogged down, and again, it's my job, the legal world all day long. But this is what I've tried to talk to the other attorneys, and in this case, this is not just any other case. Yeah. This is not just doing your job. This is not just, hey, I'm representing the client the best I can, and it's just, I get that from a legal point of view, lawyers do that. This is not that. This is one, like, if you win, what do you win? What type of, is this a moment you will look back on and go, what, wow. And we don't have a lot of moments like that in our lives. And this county is having that moment, and those parties involved in this case are having that. And so I think that's what Michael's trying to say, is that as this escalates and that moment kind of lingers and we keep on and on, then that kind of moment of truth, we're fast kind of approaching that here. And the time for everybody to kind of be the hero in this story, all of us to be the hero in the story, is now. I mean, and so I think that's what Michael's saying is, we can all, through whatever capacity we have, be the hero in the story. And whether you're, the IDA board or the airport authority board or the city or just you and me or the attorneys here, it's just not your everyday story. And so what do we need to do in order to be the type of person and county that we want to be in this moment, where we look back and go, that was the moment that everything got better and that we did the right thing. So I hope this call to action, we've done a call to action, and I think Michael's talking about, but it's I think everyone feels that it's starting to becoming even more of a serious moment.
I see some comments about, handing flyers out and getting more people involved. And I think that's definitely happening. To my point earlier about, I don't know what to say to these elected officials. I'm calling on folks that are in positions of authority, that are on boards, that have influence. Now is the time. Last week, some great folks stepped up that have, phone numbers and connections to folks in high places, and they took action, and that's what we need.
That's a great point. There was a whole team of people who did. I guess that's one of the reasons it's to the forefront. Last week, we had so many people who have those connections and that ability and that influence, and they know people, reach out. How can we help, and what can we do? And it was that team. It wasn't just here at this firm or sitting here at this table. There was a whole cast of characters behind last week and how that all happened. And so seeing everyone rise up to the occasion as the emergency hit us, that there's opportunities for those other leaders in the community to do that as well.
I saw a comment about isn't the IDA board a mirror basically of the airport authority? That's not so. There is definitely there is some overlap, but you've also got some.
No, not you're thinking about the airport authority and the IDA board. So there's a couple people.
Yeah, I think she's just saying that, isn't it a lot of the same people?
It not really. I think Harry McClendon was the chairman of the airport authority, and he is on the IDA. I think he's still in the IDA. I think Tim McCartney is on the airport authority, and he's on the executive committee, I believe, of the IDA. Again, the IDA took their board members off their website, so I'm going on prior information. And then Jonathan Welch is on the airport authority, and he's the attorney for the IDA. I think is Spencer Williams on the IDA board? Reba,
I'm not sure.
Reba, can you check that? Reba knows that. She has that information.
But then there's a good number of other folks that are on that IDA, and there's a few that have seats by fact of their
job. Good people on that IDA board that joined it to try to do the right thing, and they want to help, And so I'm not trying to say that those people are not, people who've invested in this community, who love this community, who've worked for this community. We're just saying, look at it differently. Look at it from what are some further actions that we can all come together in order to end this.
Okay. How can we get the AG involved?
We're working on that.
That's the kind of thing. I mean, we're getting there, right? Getting there. I mean, there's still a lot of fight left, but that doesn't mean the fight doesn't escalate. And when your people fighting for your home, we've said all along, this is only going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And we've said it tonight. There's no win. There's no win for the people in our community that are pushing this. You're going to move to the beach and live with it for the rest of your life.
So let's take control locally. Let's not, the FAA is great and the AG is great. That's the state level stuff. But we can solve this problem. We've said this from day one. We can solve this problem right here. And that's what we're trying to talk about. We can solve this problem here. And our neighbors can solve. We can all work together. And those that are in these positions to stop it, do that.
Let's see. Thomas Greer said to ask Mr. Adderholt to get a congressional investigation started. I hope we don't get that far. But if that's what it comes to down the road, where Congressman Adderholt can help.
I don't. If he felt like that was, I believe Congressman Adderholt would do that in a heartbeat. If he felt like there was evidence or something he could do in order to do that, I think he is committed to whatever he can do to help. I just don't think that's really where we need to be in this. He's already got the FAA, the most highest echelons of them here. So hopefully, that's not. But I don't doubt for a minute that if there was facts and evidence that would warrant something like that he would have a conversation about that. He's committed to help in any reasonable way he can.
I so don't want this one at the federal level. That's just me personally. I think it'd just be a shame to see this one at the federal level because this is such a local issue. And I think, that's part of I think what Congressman Adderholt said in his op-ed. Go read that.
The city needs to stop.
Yeah. He's when you got folks like him, and some of the folks that have been around a lot of this stuff for a long time saying, I've never seen community support, for or against anything like this. That should say a lot. It's a local. We fought it at the local level. I think I hope that we win it at the local level. That being said, I mean, by any legal means necessary. I mean, we're going to fight because we're fighting for our homes, and we're fighting for our community. So, if it comes to that, then we got to figure it out.
That's what we're going to do then.
I know months ago we were sitting here going, how do we keep this away from federal stuff? Now we're jumping on phone calls with the congressman and the FAA. And it's just another day in Gadsden. So I'd love to get away from that. But let's see. Christie King asks, if the GAA votes to sell, not lease, will the council also have to vote since they are a co-sponsor?
My understanding, Christie, is yes, they would have there as a co-sponsor. They would have to vote to sell or lease, either one. And this was based on the FAA call. We asked them that question specifically, and they said that the city, as the co-sponsor, would have to sign off on any lease or sale. That's what they said.
All right.
But I'm afraid we're dealing with the chicken and the egg. Airport Authority is like, we'll do it when they do it, and they do it when we do it, and and again, we might be back at elections.
Hey, I don't mind if we debate chicken or egg for the next 12 months. I saw some discussion about Tim McCartney and McCartney's construction company and paving. I think that got cleared up in the comments about his company. He sold out a number of years ago, so now he's just on that. But I think he's doing some other thing at the state level. The governor put him on.
He's very involved in the workforce development in the state. Very knowledgeable. He knows workforce development. Been doing it for years. So Governor Ivey's appointed him to several things on that. So he's he if anybody
he's pushing to develop the chicken workforce.
I hope not. I hope, but I think.
Is that what he's bringing to the table? Because he's the executive. He's on the executive board of the IDA, and he could be outspoken about this on the Airport Authority and clearly say this is.
He's certainly knowledgeable about workforce development and training that is needed statewide, and can speak to possibly the effect that good or bad that this may have. But I have not spoken to Tim about it. I don't know what he has to say.
Well, I'd be interested to know what he's doing. If he's working at a state level on how to, deal with the future of jobs and grow the workforce development. I'm ignorant of those things, but I'm certainly skeptical at this point, given the year history I now have from afar.
It would be great if this could be voted down and Tim could come on and talk to you, Michael, about workforce. He's very knowledgeable about it, and talk about workforce development in areas that that's the kind of vision we need to be talking about, is workforce development, education, those types of things around here, rather than a rendering plan.
Was his appointment by Ivy before or after the rendering plan?
Before.
That was before.
Sure, it was before. Yeah. He's been involved a number of years in it.
All right. I think we've been going long enough. Holy cow! It's 9 o'clock.
Oh my gosh!
What are you folks doing out of bed?
I know. I'm sorry. It's late.
Yeah. Well. Guys, thank you so much for the questions. I think I got through most of them. I will. Danny Starnes, I was chuckling a few minutes ago because he said it might be less expensive to just give a few elected officials a little dirty money and outbid JBS.
Oh, Danny.
Taking the jab, taking the jab. That's we're not that.
Yeah.
So I'll chalk that up as a joke. Although I know Danny's probably feels pretty strongly that that's not a joke. But you know what? The reality is, I get the frustration and I get the sentiment. I don't want to accuse people of doing things unless I definitively know. But at the same time, you know, I understand perception, and I can relate to how people feel, and I can see exactly why people would think that that is the way it is. I don't know. Maybe they need to hire a PR firm or something to talk to and explain how to better relate to the customers, voters, um, constituents. But I'd hate to see them waste more money, to be honest with you, because this is not rocket science.
And those are not, I understand that those are not allegations that we're making on this here, and we, we want this to be resolved. It's simple.
You're covering my six, right?
I am.
She's being a lawyer now.
Mm-hmm.
I am not accusing anyone.
Mm-hmm.
That is not something that like I said, I'm going to hold to the idea that we have a bunch of great, good people. That some are just making some really poor choices. Some are listening to the wrong people. In a small vacuum, I don't think that a whole bunch of people are taking a bunch of money. I'm going to go that far and say that, but I can understand why there's a lot of people in this community that feel that way. And I hope that that's not the case, for sure. And at this point, I don't care. I don't even care if people did take money and they don't go to jail for it. I'd just love for them to figure out how to get out of this. If that's what's going on, then let's figure out how to get you out of it and move on. Because it's destroying our community.
But we're not saying that's what's going on.
Nope, that is not.
What
we're
we
not
are
saying
saying is that there are a lot of good leaders that, no matter what the reason of why this is still here, that we have a lot of good leaders who can, work together to, and we've already been doing that, but can do more in order to get this thing out of here, locate somewhere else so we can move on and start talking about vision and things that pull us together. Not that this rendering plant hasn't done that. It absolutely has pulled us together in ways that we could not fathom a year ago. And there's a lot of blessings as we go into this Thanksgiving holiday. There's so much to be thankful for that we are aware of, and that we are that we have woken up. In the sleeping giant is awake and paying attention and understands so much more. From a civics lesson point of view, this community is the most educated it's probably ever been about how things are run and how to fix things and what's wrong. A lot of blessings as we move into this upcoming season, and hopefully this next year. The idea is that we can get this albatross around our neck over, so that we can then have a shared vision and do the hard work of figuring out, where do we go now that we know what we don't want to be, what do we do want to be, and how can we work together in a way that we find our way, and that's going to be hard work. But I sure would rather be doing that than this, especially when you see the families and the people whose lives would be impacted so greatly by this. So that's my Thanksgiving prayer as we go into this week.
Well said. And with that, I'll leave you with this, guys. I would appreciate it. I'd be interested to see what you have to say in the comments. What are you thankful for in our community? Throw it out there as we sign off. It is Thanksgiving. As you said in your post last week, last week was a win. And we should be proud of where we are as a community as we go into Thanksgiving. Gorge yourself on turkey. Enjoy the Iron Bowl. Some of us may not enjoy it as much as we'd like. But have your Iron Bowl parties, and talk about it some, but don't let it consume the conversation.
He hasn't been to my house because it consumes the conversation.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Well, then
My
don't.
family on Thanksgiving.
Don't. All right, but guys, no, seriously, I'd love to hear, what are your thoughts on what you're thankful for in our community. It was a lot of fun to see all the photos of everybody.
Great. Yeah.
So drop some comments down there, and have a wonderful Thanksgiving. We will see what happens and transpires this week, and we'll try and keep you up to date. When something new happens, there's a ton of stuff that's going on in the background behind the scenes right now, and all of it will come out, and we'll try to do as clear a job as we can to educate everybody on what's happening. So go check out the timeline that we've got on the website, advanceetowah.com, and check out the app on Who's Running. And guys, we'll talk to you on the internet over the coming days. But please have a wonderful and happy Thanksgiving, and be thankful for this incredible community we live in. And tell me exactly. I mean, what's some of your favorite stuff around here that you're thankful for? So, all right, guys, y'all have a wonderful night. Thank you for hanging in there. We'll talk to y'all later.
Good night.